My name's Brionni, and this is my practical musicianship presentation. Over this presentation, I really want to talk about what I've improved this year and how I managed to do it. I have seen a massive change in my confidence with performance, as before starting this year I had only ever done BVs as a part of a band, so it was a big jump for me to become a lead vocalist, which I am now doing as well outside of university, which is amazing. Absolutely loving it at the moment. I've also seen a massive change in my power and my range with my vocals and also with my sight reading. As before university I had done sight reading before, but only with the piano and the harp. So sight reading vocally is quite different. Obviously you've got to, instead of just knowing where the notes are visually, you've got to be able to pitch them in your head. So that was interesting to start learning this year. So that was great. Yeah, so I'd like to talk about how I improved these, what I have learnt this year, and then what I had to do for the practical element of my part of this assessment. So yeah, let's jump into it. Okay, so I mentioned some of the things that I've improved on this year, and one of them was confidence. So let's talk about that first. So something that I didn't really have before this year was stage presence. I'd get up there, be in the back, I'd sing, but I wasn't ever, my body language wasn't great, posture, I didn't really know how to compose myself on stage. So that's probably one of the biggest things I've learnt this year that's not to do with my vocals, if that makes sense. So yeah, I learnt to kind of perform songs rather than just singing them, which, yeah, lots of people have seen that as a big difference in me this year. Looking forward to improving it more. But yeah, one way of doing that is kind of, I'll touch on it later on in this video as well, about making sure that you know the songs that you perform really, really well and that you can connect with them. So if you don't know what it's about, then you're not really going to tell a story to your listeners, which is really important. One of the biggest things about, well, performing in general is you are telling a story. So that's a big thing that I've learnt this year. The second point I touched on with this video was my power and my range, and how that has increased since the beginning of last year. So the way this in general has happened is through different breathing techniques and exercises and my warm-ups. Before coming to university, I didn't do warm-ups that often, and I realise now how important that is when looking after your voice. So that's something I've started every time I go to sing now. I always make sure that I warm up. And from my course, I have learned lots of new, quite fun exercises actually, that help me warm up my voice, but have also made me realise that with practice I can increase my range, which has been amazing. I started off thinking I was just an alto, and I found that, like, when I get put in group vocal situations, that I can be either now an alto or a mezzo-soprano singing in the higher range, which has definitely boosted my confidence a lot more as well. So I'd like to quickly talk about a couple of these breathing techniques that I've learnt and exercises that I do now, and warm-ups that I do daily as well. Okay, so I'm going to talk about breathing techniques first. So before this year, I found that when I was breathing, I wasn't making sure that I was doing it enough in songs, but also I wasn't breathing from my diaphragm. I was just taking a breath and going for it. So that's one thing I've learnt this year, is to make sure that you fill up this area first and continue to use that until the last gasp, and then let out what's left on top. So the way we learnt this was my vocal tutor would ask you to put one hand right over this gap, this area here, and one hand over the top of the chest, and you breathe in over 4 counts, as much as you can, making sure to fill this first, and then the top. I found, first of all, when I started doing this, that I'd tense up quite a lot and my shoulders would lift when I'm doing it. So that's something I've learned to watch. I tend to do this in the mirror quite a lot to make sure that I'm relaxing my body and keeping my posture good, and yeah, making sure I can do that. So this breathing technique would be to stand up straight. You can do it sitting or laying down, but make sure if you are doing it sitting or laying down to do it standing too, which helps you get into it then when you practice singing. So you'd breathe in over 4, so you go 1, 2, 3, 4, then you hold it in for 4 seconds, and then breathe out. At first I started out breathing out over 8 counts, but then I got to a point where I started just trying to go as long as I could, which has actually pushed me to improve my breathing more. And then after that, you do it again a couple of times, and then instead of just breathing out, you'd sing a note and hold it as long as possible. It's like I'd turn to my keyboard, play a note, and then as I'm exhaling, I would try and hold that note as long as possible. So that has really helped, yeah. Also, with breathing exercises, one that I have picked up from a tutorial in my university actually, so this wasn't in my vocal class, but was to do that exact same exercise, but if you're sat straight on a chair, what you do is put your chest to your knees and hug underneath your knees and do the same, and it's forcing you to kind of fill areas that you didn't realise you necessarily could. So that's definitely helped as well with my core strength and being able to breathe better. So the next thing to talk about is warm-ups. Yes, and also how breathing techniques and warm-ups can be incorporated together, which is something I kind of found out this year. Never thought of that. I thought, like, if you have your warm-up, this is your set amount of reps, and you're done with it. But something I learnt from my vocal tutor this year, which is great, is if you use your breathing techniques and your warm-ups, put them together and say, so if your warm-up is just doing a scale, like, say you would do that in one breath, which is great, then you'd move up and do the next one. What you can also do is breathe in for 4, hold it for 4, and then as you exhale and sing this, instead of doing what I did there, so I did 4 repetitions of that, you can keep doing it until you run out of your breath. So that's a good one to do. Another one that I found really interesting, actually for pushing my range this year, has been one that we call Bumblebee. Let's say if we start it on the G, but here, you're going bumblebee, 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 bee. Bumblebee, 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 bee. So as you're doing that one, you hold your breath until you reach the top, take a quick breath again, and come all the way down. So you try not to breathe in between. I personally love that one. That's one of my go-tos. Also another one, which is a bit of a brain teaser, I'd say, is, I'm not sure if we have a name for this one, so we'll call it 1, 1, 2, 1. So you start on the bottom note, which you would call your 1, the tonic. So you go 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Which is not too bad. I enjoy that one. It's great for getting the mind working, but you find that you actually find it quite easy after a while. It's just kind of a bit of a struggle in the beginning. But if you really want to push yourself, you can do it in reverse, where you start on the top note. I found this one a little bit harder to do with pitching a little bit. I'm not sure why. but coming down the scale and going back up was a little bit of a struggle for me. I think I've got it now. Could try it, but we'll see how it goes. Let's go like 8, 8, 7, 8, 8, 7, 6, 7, 8, 8, 7, 6, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That didn't go well. So that's definitely one to work on. If you don't get it straight away, another great way of doing it is while you are singing it, whatever your top number is on that is, like, if we're at 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, helps you to not lose your place. So it's the little things that you pick up over the year to help you get through that. But those are a few of my favourite vocal exercises at the moment. We have another gospel one that I love. We don't do this in university, unfortunately, but I do really enjoy it. That's one that I do with my other vocal group outside of university. Next, I'd like to talk quickly about a couple of things I've learnt about sight reading this year, specifically sight singing, and how I went about doing it and the order that we got taught to do it in. Sight singing. Sight singing is another element of practical musicianship that we have covered in my vocal lessons this past year. Why sight singing? The reason we have covered sight singing in our lessons is to equip us to read the type of music we would be given in a professional setting. When entering the competitive world of music, sight singing is definitely a real industry standard that is not only an expectation amongst professional vocalists, but will open more opportunities in the workplace and reinforce your image as a versatile musician. How did we go about learning how to sight read? Most of the exercises we've been doing are generally around 4 bars long. When looking at these exercises, we've been taught a particular order to go about figuring them out. That order is to first look at the key signature. The key signature means what key the piece was composed in. This is signified by how many sharps or flat are in said key. As you can see from the example below, this scale is in D major. We can tell this because it has 2 sharps, F sharp and C sharp. It is important to know this as it will determine the way you read some of the notes in the piece. For example, if we look at the 3rd note in the scale, we can see that this is an F, but because of the key signature, this F is an F sharp, even though there isn't a sharp symbol next to the note itself. Next, we look at the time signature. We can find the time signature as an indication of rhythm just after the clef. Usually you will find that the time signature looks like a fraction. The number on the bottom is the denominator, which defines the type of beats and their worth, and then the numerator on the top is how many of these beats you will have in each bar. Once we are aware of the time signature, we can figure out the rhythm of the piece. When doing this, it is definitely worth clapping along aloud to get the rhythm to sit with you. I have found it helpful practicing with a metronome and doing my exercises like this. By practicing with a metronome, we get used to holding a regular pulse. Once we are aware of what notes are given in the piece, we then need to look at what lyrics are given for the vocalist to sing. And then lastly, we can look at the dynamics. Once all of this has been broken down into sections logically, we should be able to work out exactly what has been given in the exercise. The styles that we covered in class. In our first year, we covered 6 genres. With each genre, we spoke about its background and where it started. Then in class, we would discuss typical traits of the genres and any reoccurring themes. Also, with each song in the genre, we would talk about what type of vocal attacks they would use and why. The genres we covered were blues, soul, rock, disco, reggae, and punk. Being one of a few backing vocalists, you have to learn to blend together and really complement your lead vocalist. From the way you sing to the way you move on stage, you need to ensure that you function as a tight unit and stay in sync with each other. From this, we began to work on our stage presence as lead vocalists, how we carry ourselves and connect with our audience. A few tips I have picked up from my class are first of all to smile as much as you can. Don't look too serious all the time that you're performing. However, this doesn't mean that you can't change the feel for different songs. Make sure to connect with your audience by talking to them. One very important thing we learnt was to make sure we understand what we are singing about, why it was written, and to know what the emotion behind it is. From that, we can adapt our facial expressions, body language, and vocal attacks appropriately. And lastly, another element to be really aware of is learning as a vocalist when to back off a little bit. As vocalists, we also need to let the other musicians in the band have their chance to shine. When your guitarist is doing a roaring solo, allow the spotlight to stay on them. For our end of year recital, we all did 4 songs. The first of these 3 songs were chosen by our vocal tutor, and then one choice was made by ourselves. Each song choice was for us to show an understanding of the genres that were covered in our classes this year. The first of our songs was Car Wash by Rose Royce. I really enjoyed performing this one. It's personally a song that I've performed many times before. However, being assessed on it really made me analyse the song and sing it in a completely different way to before. Before, I used to sing the song quite powerfully, and now I understand that because of the way it was originally recorded and the genre, that this needs to be sung in quite a breathy way, which is also called an aspirate onset. Also, the glottal attack is used for this. Of course, with any song that you do, you need to sell it to the audience. An example of this would be the claps at the beginning of this song. By doing this, you really add some extra energy to the song, and that's really important. So from this, I learned that I always need to start this song with my microphone on the stand. The second song, chosen by our tutor, was Al Green's Let's Stay Together. For this song, we used a breathy attack, so we used our falsetto. We use this instead of our head voice to get a more eerie sound, like this. 'Cause you make me feel so brand new, and I want to spend my life with you. We use a lot of dynamics in this song to help convey the emotion of the song. Personally, I tried to take a quieter tone with the verses when Al Green is giving reasons for why they shouldn't break up and saying how he doesn't understand how they got to that place. Dynamically, I'm a bit louder in the chorus because this is the plea for them to stay together. However, just because this section is louder, it doesn't mean that we get any harsher with the vocals. They stay soft. The third song was Maxi Priest's Wild World. This song comes under the genre of reggae. I think the main problem I encountered was remembering in which choruses to change the tune a little bit so that the song didn't start to fall flat. By this section, I mean the "Oh baby, baby, it's a wild world," and then the "Oh baby, baby, it's a wild world." It's not a massive difference, but I think it's important to do this as the melody doesn't change an awful amount throughout the song, which would be rather familiar with the genre of reggae. However, we need to ensure that the change in the melody doesn't come in more often than the original melody. And finally, the last song that I would like to talk about from my recital is Luther Vandross's Never Too Much. I chose this one because I grew up with it and absolutely loved it and felt like it really suited me as a vocalist. I enjoyed performing it. I think the performance went quite well, I'm hoping. In my opinion, it went pretty good actually, yeah. So I think my main struggle with this song would have been that growing up listening to it and singing the song, I sung it quite powerfully and it was kind of like all the vocals were quite in your face. It's like the beginning would be like, I can't fool myself, I don't want nobody else to ever love me. You are my shining star, my guiding light, my love fantasy. Whereas after discussion with my vocal tutor and listening to it a bit more, I realised that it's actually more of a breathy, kind of loving, a calmer, softer tone. Like, I can't fool myself, I don't want nobody else to ever love me. You are my shining star, my guiding light, my love fantasy. So it kind of everything kind of more rolls off it. It's like he's telling it softly to the person he loves. So that is one of the main things I found with this song when performing it, and I really enjoyed doing it. So, in conclusion, I have absolutely loved my first year. I have seen a massive improvement in my voice and my presence as a vocalist, and other people have started to see that too, which is absolutely great. Really thankful for it. I came into my first year not understanding. I wouldn't be able to talk to you about certain vocal techniques, where now I can name them all, which is great. All the ones we've covered this year anyway, like your main techniques. You've got your glottal attack, your aspirate onset, which is also known as a breathy attack, your coordinate onset. I did not know what falsetto or vibrato meant at the beginning of this year, so I've definitely learnt an absolute ton, and I am really looking forward to my second year and seeing what I can improve on. It's mad how far I've come in 1 year. So, on to second year.